Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Themba and Sipho were discussing the importance of positive thinking. Sipho was enthusiastically telling Themba about the benefits of a healthy mental attitude, and he also mentioned a phrase that had once impressed him. He said, "Remember, Themba, we become what we think about." Good grief! Themba suddenly blurted out, "I'm going to turn out into a woman." Good evening and welcome to Opportunity Tuesday on Talk with Rams Live. For 2 weeks in succession, we dealt with the subject of boosting your confidence through emotional intelligence. Our resident personal development coach, Dr. Thando Sibanda, defined emotional intelligence and its factors. And on the very last week, before last week, we dealt with the competencies you need for EQ. We were supposed to go deep last week, but ESCOM and Gremlins infected us, so we couldn't broadcast last week. We played you a tape to keep you going. So tonight we go a bit deep. And as we do always in these 30 minutes of the most powerful digital content, we are live on Facebook and YouTube. And thank you very much for choosing us. It is a program that I'm proud of, and I hope that you're proud of. I love the time that Dr. Thando Sibanda gives us, and I know you also appreciate it. Dr. T, good evening.
Good evening, my brother. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, man, and I'm excited to be here.
Back. Welcome back. We
thank you.
Connect. You were in Botswana last time. We couldn't connect. We couldn't connect successfully, but you back. How was it in that land of Botswana?
No, man, it was lovely. It was lovely. I always enjoy every time I cross the border in that direction. Yeah, there was a bit of load shedding there as well. So it's an African thing.
It has become an African thing.
It's an African thing. But I'm glad to be back, and I'm glad that we can do this, in a very familiar environment.
Do you know, by the way, why it's an African thing, Dr. T?
No.
I will help you. I used to consult in this sector. South Africa provides, or at least a while ago, and I don't think it would have changed, South Africa was responsible for about 70% of the electricity of the continent. So when we sneeze, everybody catches a cold.
Oh, okay, all right. So it's just the ripple effect of
exactly.
of our management capabilities.
Yeah, when ESCOM
or rather lack of them.
When ESCOM announces potential load shedding, everybody in the continent goes, "Oh damn!"
Everyone is watching the Twitter feed.
Exactly.
No, I hear you.
That's the story. So let's go back to our conversation, Dr. T. And I think we are now talking about developing an action plan, an emotional intelligence action plan. I thought what we should do first is to remind our viewers, our followers, about this thing called sustainable success, because you keep on using that phrase, sustainable success. Is it yes. Is it just a skill, Dr. T?
No, I think it's important to understand that sustainable success is not just about a hard skill. A lot of people know how to do their job well, but they fail miserably to succeed and influence others. So sometimes technical ability, the hard skill of knowing how to do something, is not all that there is to the concept of success. The other dimension, of course, is being able to work with other people, being able to influence other people. So some people, those people that struggle to manage themselves will also struggle to relate with others. And so the study of emotional intelligence, or EQ, is about strengthening ourselves from the inside so that we can have holistic success in our personal and our professional lives.
Okay. Now, on that note, just to remind our our community, and those who are joining for the first time. Define for me emotional intelligence again, Dr. T.
Look, I'd say emotional intelligence is the ability to manage ourselves and our relationships with others so that we can live out our intentions and reach our goals. So there is self-management and then there is others relating. Those two dimensions are very important to someone who is very, very stable in terms of their emotional intelligence.
And therefore, I suppose, by extension, then EQ becomes very critical to success.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. In fact, they say within a work context, up to 58% of performance, is attributed to EQ. So you can see that, knowing the technical knowledge of how to do something plays a role, but actually EQ is the bigger and the greater dimension within which a human being functions, because you are really managing yourself and you're also managing your relations with others.
Wow. What is therefore then, Dr. T, the basis of our discussion today, the basis for EQ action planning?
I think it's important for us to understand, Rams, that information travels, right, between what we call the rational and the emotional centers of our brains, like cars in a two-way street. So there's the rational part, which is governed by your neocortex, your executive functions, your logical thinking, right? And then you've got your emotional side, which is a function of your limbic brain or your limbic system. So traffic is traveling there, and so the more traffic travels in both directions, the more healthier and more balanced the person is. If you are just someone who's just a logical thinker, but you've got no emotional capacity, you are a challenge, And again, some people who are just emotional people without rational thinking, again, there's a challenge in dealing with those people. So a healthy person is one that is able to handle both the rational dimension as well as the emotional dimension. And so the more aware we are, and the more we exercise our rational pathways and our emotional pathways within the context of managing ourselves and relating with others, then the better we are, the more holistic a life we can live, and the more productive we are. And so this, the basis for EQ action planning is the fact that we need to be aware of both our rational and our emotional centers and how we can keep those healthy through developing some of these skills.
Okay, I get you. I get you. For me, that then places the conversation today into context. Again, I have the advantage over everybody else in these conversations because I chat to you privately a lot. We spend a lot of time together. So I need to bring those things to these conversations so that people must understand where I am. Not that I'm smarter than them. I'm learning every day. I'm just that I'm getting before them. I'm in front of the queue. There is a phrase that you use, Dr. T, called plasticity. What is that?
Right. Actually, that's one of my favorite terms, Rams.
Yes.
Because especially in Africa, we like to say you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Yeah.
We say I am what I am. You can't change me or I can't change myself.
Yes.
Well, actually, plasticity is the term that neurologists and neuroscientists use to describe the brain's ability to change. All of us have a certain degree of plasticity. No one is hardwired. Every behavior is learned. Our brain has the capacity to grow new connections. The same way I can flex my biceps, and I can carry weight, I will develop muscles. It's the same thing with our brain. If we exercise it and we use it, we can actually develop new neural pathways. In fact, a single cell, Rams, can grow up to 15,000 connections.
Wow.
These are neural pathways with just its neighbors. So this chain reaction of growth, it ensures that the pathway of thought that is responsible for certain behaviors becomes strong. So you can literally create what is called a neural highway, where you are able to learn new things to a point where you are now unconsciously competent, you know, and like what you do when you are putting your pin code, you know,
Yes.
your fingers know where to go before your mind kicks in, type thing. So you can become unconsciously competent, you know, through creating certain neural pathways in terms of your repeated behavior. So it's a very, very powerful thing. Everybody has plasticity rams. Everybody can change. Even the hard-headed African man, you know, the traditional guy who says, I am who I am, that man can change.
So, folks, you know that famous song by Brenda Fassie, Mina ngohlala nginje, cut it out. Cut it out. We all have plasticity. Ngeke sihlale sinje, siyashintsha. And that's what this show is about. We're all going to get better. We're going to change for the better. What, Dr. T, is the necessity of an action plan where EQ is concerned? Why do we need it? You know, you gave me all the definitions for 2 weeks. I got to understand those factors and how they work, but why do I need an action plan?
Remember the powerful thing about an action plan, Rams, is that it gives you a predetermined direction. We all need an action plan. In fact, an action plan is actually a self-management strategy, right? Mm-hmm. Because an action plan gives you control over your EQ state. It gives your system a strategy to default to as you encounter different situations during the day. Remember, it's not everything that you've got time to think about. Well, how should I respond here? How should I act here? How should I do this? Some responses almost come naturally. And so some people say, no, I'm just hardwired to respond that way. No, you've actually learned and you have framed yourself to respond that way even before you can think. That's why Marines will say, trust your training. Because when you are in situations where you need to respond quickly and your brain can take time to kick in, it is your training that kicks in. So when we talk of training, we are actually talking of conditioning ourselves in a certain way so that it shows up and serves us. So that strategy that we put together helps us to move forward, helps us to to proceed forward. So, and in fact, studies have demonstrated that a lasting change in EQ can last for more than 6 years after the new skills were first developed.
Really?
So when you teach yourself to change, 6 years down the line, what you taught yourself and what you learned is still active. And that's very powerful, Rams.
Wow. So when we dealt with the 5 areas of EQ, Dr. T, we dealt with self-awareness and control, we dealt with empathy, social expertness, we dealt with personal influence and the master of purpose. Now I know today for the action plan, we're focusing on one area for now. We're going to do the rest as we continue. Am I right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I think we're gonna take a deep dive, another deep dive into self-awareness,
okay.
So that we develop a critical action plan or a strategy for these areas of EQ in our lives. I think it's important that people really get to understand themselves to the largest extent possible, so that they are equipped. So today we're going to look at self-awareness, Franz.
Well, let's put it simply. What is self-awareness?
All right. Self-awareness is to really know yourself as you really are. And now I'm gonna get in a little bit deeper, right? So because initially self-awareness can come across as a somewhat ambiguous concept, right? And of course there's no finishing line to where someone says, now I'm so aware of myself. Yes, to a degree you can be, right? But it's not just knowing yourself as saying, you know what, I'm a morning person or I'm an evening person. No, that's more self-observation, right? Self-awareness is a bit deeper than that. It is getting to know yourself from the inside out, and it's a continuous journey of peeling back the layers of the onion and becoming more comfortable with what is really the essence of you, And in fact, it's actually understanding your emotional reactions to anything that comes even before you have a chance to respond. So it's really knowing the real you. the deeper part of you, because remember, it's not possible to leave your emotions out of the behavioral equation. So managing yourself and managing your relations means you need to be aware of the full range of your emotions, both positive and negative. So this is a little bit different from self-observation. I sleep early, I eat early, I like this food, I don't like that food. No, this is about knowing your emotions, knowing how you respond, why you respond, to an extent that you can actually arrest your emotions, or you can encourage them before you actually respond.
I then suspect, Dr. T, then that there would be dangers to a lack of self-awareness.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You see, when you don't take time to notice and understand your emotions, they've got a strange way of surfacing and actually embarrassing you when you least expect them to. If you ever sat in a meeting where you say something and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have said that.
Yes.
And we actually hold our mouth, but it has come out and it has done the damage. A lot of relationships end because in an emotional moment you say something in your right mind you would never say.
Or should never.
But that is,
yes.
That is because we are emotionally not aware. And so our emotions have a way of coming out and embarrassing us and damaging things on the outside, simply because we are not quite aware of ourselves and how to manage ourselves before we respond in certain ways. And so it's important that we get that capacity and really know ourselves from the inside out.
Okay, I get it. Now, Dr. T, let's get to the heart of things. Let's go into the 15 strategies that are designed to help us maximize our self-awareness to create positive changes in our lives.
Absolutely. Right. So now, please bear with me. We're
going to have to try and do that in 15 minutes.
Okay. Well, we won't be able to go through all of them, but let's see how far we go. I can at least deal with 10 properly, so that people are capacitated, and then we can dovetail on the other 5 as we move forward next week.
Even if we deal with 7 today, that's fine.
Okay, lovely. That's great. All right. So the first strategy, I say, quit treating your feelings as good or bad. That's a strategy. Quit treating your feelings as good or bad. You know why? Because it is human nature to want to create 2 simple and easy piles of emotions, right? The good ones and the bad ones. For example, most people automatically classify guilt as bad. And so people don't want to feel it, because the moment you feel guilt, you're going to beat yourself up about it. And so we try to do whatever we can to get rid of it, And so, and on the other hand, when there's when someone is excited, we don't quite know how to handle that. But my point here in saying quit treating your feelings as good or bad is that we tend to attach these labels to our emotions, and we don't allow ourselves to actually interrogate them. You see, you can only create a strategy for change if you are able to actually interrogate the feeling. Well, I am feeling guilt. Why am I feeling guilt? What is this feeling of guilt? What are the reasons behind me feeling guilty? And what is this feeling of guilt doing? What is it saying to me? You see, when you do that, you are now having a more fuller experience of your feeling, even if it's one that we would normally want to run away from. And so when we allow it to run its course, we are then able to handle it properly. Have you ever seen that guilt and excitement? We treat them both as extremes, but they can both be harmful. A lot of people don't know how to handle excitement. When we get excited, we end up jumping on tables and doing very, very stupid things. Not because we're feeling guilt, no, but it's because we're feeling excited, but we don't actually know how to say, okay, this is excitement, what is it saying? How do I handle it? What should I do? How can I control it? So this is guilt. What do I need to do about this guilt? What is bringing it on, and how do I handle it? We avoid guilt as bad. And so I'm going to avoid guilt. Guess what? We embrace too much excitement, and we don't know how to function even within the context of these emotions, because we blame them as either good or bad. And so we don't learn from them.
What do I do then next time I feel an emotion that begins to build, Dr. T? What do I do?
Well, take notice of it immediately, and don't put it into whether it's good or bad. No, understand the emotion, understand what is important about it and what is not important about it. Remember, there's a difference between feelings. Remember, principles are there to guide us in the direction of life, but feelings are there to help us experience life. So when you give that emotion a chance, for you to actually learn from it. For example, if I feel guilty about something I have done, I should not avoid the guilt. I should actually interact and say, you know what, I'm feeling guilty because I was not honest with Rans. That's why I'm feeling guilty. That means that I actually need to work on my character, and I need to become a much better person. Tomorrow, I need to tell the truth. I've got to face the feeling of guilt and work with it, so that now I know how to manage it. And tomorrow, when I know that this thing is going to lead to a feeling of guilt, I know exactly, you know what, I need to act in this way so that I don't have to feel like that. So a lot of us, that's bad, I run away from it, so we never learn from it.
Okay, folks, now you know you should not feel good or bad. What's next, Dr. T? Depress us some more.
Right. Secondly, it's important to observe the ripple effect of our emotions. Understand and observe the ripple effect of your emotion. For example, Rams, we need to consider what happens, say, when you drop a stone into the water, right? The stone swift plummets and it creates these ripples, right? Yeah. We need to understand what our emotions do to others in terms of the ripple effect. So it's easy for us to have this emotional release because, say, maybe I told someone off, and we like to say, you know what, I went there and I gave them a piece of my mind. Yeah. I gave them a piece of, well, the moment you give them a piece of your mind, you have a piece missing from your mind. That's always very important for us to know. So remember, emotions are primary drivers of behavior. So we need to understand what effect do they have on other people. Let me use an example of say, a work context and what the ripple effect is. A manager will lose his cool and berate an employee in front of the rest of the team and lashes out. And when the lashing happens, it may seem that the manager's target, or this guy in charge, his target is only the person that he lashed out at. And guess what? And he may feel good about the fact that, you know what? I exploded and I told him off in front of everybody. I corrected him. And you walk away thinking, I felt good. But what is the ripple effect of that emotion? The ripple effect is that the others, right? The rest of the team members, they wander back to their desks, right? And they also feel the wrath. Remember, even if the wrath is not directed at you and you are a bystander, you still capture the emotion of it. And they go back with a pit in their stomachs, each one wondering, when will be my next turn? So the manager on one hand is excited and feeling good that I told him in front of everybody because we can't tolerate this kind of behavior. But guess what? You may think it's good for productivity, but it is terrible for morale because now everybody settles into caution. Because once people are afraid, the next outcome of fear or the output of fear is caution. But for your team to perform their tasks, they need to take risks. They need to feel open. They need to be, guess what? Everybody starts to take caution. And a year later, you are fired as the manager because your team is not producing. But guess what? It's because you let out an emotional tirade that had a ripple effect that went beyond the person you were targeting, and it killed, the culture for everybody else.
Wow. So this bravado leads, as you say, to caution, and caution leads to inactivity, which of course means poor productivity. I love that, Dr. T. I love that. We need to all remember that in our interactions, even with our own families. It's an amazing thing to think about going forward. So what's the next one?
The next one, in terms of self-awareness, remember this is all about the self. And maybe that's why
yes.
this conversation is a little bit uncomfortable for a lot of us because it's too close to home, you know?
Yeah.
But I think it's important, Rams, that we lean into our discomfort. That's the third one, right? So the biggest obstacle to increasing your self-awareness is the tendency to avoid discomfort. We tend to avoid discomfort that comes from seeing ourselves as we really are. I remember one time I was with my young brother and we're driving in the car, and you know, I like to converse, and sometimes I like to think, so I like quiet. So he puts the radio on. It's my young brother, and I switch it off. We drive another. He puts it on, and I switch it off. So that time I realized that no, but why is the radio keep, you know, the music? I said to him, but dude, why is it that you can't be silent? He says, to be honest with you, I can't handle silence because I can't deal with myself. I can't handle being alone with my thoughts. So there must always be something that distracts me from myself. But you see, if you are going to be an emotionally balanced person, you need to be okay with that discomfort. Lean into your discomfort so that you can work through it. Then you can ask yourself, why is it that I struggle with silence? Why can't I concentrate when there is silence? What is it? Oh, there are probably some insecurities that I have. Then I deal with that. So you see, this conversation is about building the emotional EQ muscle. And building that muscle means you've got to really face yourself, the person that you are. Michael Jackson said, I'm going to start with the man in the mirror. And sometimes that conversation is not an easy one. It's not one that's exciting. But guess what? We need to face our discomforts. We need to face our insecurities. We need to lean into our discomforts. If there's a certain area that brings certain emotions, whether it's boredom, confusion, anticipation, guess what? No matter how small and how insignificant that emotion is, we miss the opportunity to do something productive about it if we don't lean into it and interrogate it.
Wow. So rather than avoiding a feeling, our goal should be to move toward the emotion, into it, and eventually through it.
Oh, absolutely. We've got to be effective, Rams, we actually need to discover our own arrogance. What is that, right? Arrogance are those things we don't bother to learn about and we dismiss as unimportant. So one person thinks, for example, apologies are for sissies. So they never learn to recognize when one is needed. There's some people who just don't apologize. They are above. They think apologizing is beneath them. And the day they actually need to apologize, they don't know what to do and where one is needed. And they miss out and they mess up relationships. Another person hates feeling down, so they constantly distract themselves. And they never really understand the feeling, the true feeling of contentment, because one avoids the low of it, the other one avoids the high of it. And so both people need to take that bold step of leaning into the feelings, and that is what will motivate them to change. Otherwise, we all continue down an unproductive, unsatisfying path, repeating the same negative patterns over and over.
Wow. Okay. The next one, Dr. T, let's try and put in number 4 and 5, and then we conclude.
Okay, lovely. Right, the next one is actually, I call it feeling your emotions physically. Now, this is a skill, right? Because remember, when you experience an emotion, electrical signals, they course through your brain and they trigger physical sensations in your body. Have you ever realized that when you say, you know what, I had a conversation with that guy and it left a bad taste in my mouth, you actually feel the bad taste. You actually taste it.
Wow.
You know, your chemist in the body actually creates the bad taste, and so it's the same. Physical sensations can be as varied as maybe your stomach muscles tightening, maybe your heart rate increasing, your breath quickening, your mouth going dry, and because your body and your mind are so tightly connected, one of the most important ways to understand your emotions as they are happening is to learn how to spot the physical changes that accompany your emotions. This is very important, right? Because, for example, whenever I start feeling this way, I start seeing this in my body. Maybe my throat goes dry.
Yes.
Maybe my hands start to shiver. It means 1, 2, 3. When you notice that, things like your heart rate, the pace of your breathing, you notice how you tense your arms and how you tense your legs and how you tense your muscles. That knowledge is there to help you develop a strategy for self-management. It's not there for you to actually accelerate or exacerbate the feeling. When I feel like this, I'm very angry, so I need to punch very quickly. No, it's there to help you manage yourself.
Wow.
Because the moment you start seeing your body responding, then you can say, you know what, when I see my body responding this way, I need to manage myself that way.
Okay, so I need to observe. I need to be cognizant of these feelings, or these emotions at least, and open my mind to noticing the sensations. As you say, like my mouth goes dry, I start stammering. I know people who stammer because they're going through a bad time. All those things. So as I do it, Dr. T, do I then get better? Do I improve at this and find that I can deal with it better as I go forward?
Oh, absolutely. It makes you physically aware of an emotion long before you are mentally aware of it. See, remember those two dimensions.
Yeah.
Because if you can physically become aware of it long before you are mentally aware of it, you can already help yourself. Like, I know some people that actually say, you know what, whenever I know I can't breathe, maybe I'm listening to something and someone's trying to get at me, what I do is I've then developed a capacity to say, you know what, breathe in, breathe out, count to 5, count to 10. What is that? That's a self-management strategy. In fact, some people think that's stupidity, but actually that's EQ maturity. Because now you can develop strategies on how to manage yourself and carry yourself well through understanding and knowing your physique and knowing how your body changes when your mind is going to approach certain levels of responses to emotions.
The last one today, Dr. T.
Right. The last one for today, I want to say, know who and what pushes your buttons. A lot of times, Rams, yes, a lot of times we fall into traps, and we almost say it as if it's something that's really cool. And say, you know what? He pushed my buttons, and I responded. Well, guess what? That's not something that's praiseworthy. We all have buttons. We all have triggers, whatever you want to call them, that when pushed, they can irritate us, they can irk us, until we want to scream or until we want to respond in a certain way. They are everywhere. It may be that co-worker, who's a drama queen. Maybe you're one person who wants to get into meetings and you want to move forward with the agenda, and this person comes in and wants to make everybody, feel their presence. They want to make everybody feel that I'm here, and this is who I am, and this is what I'm all about. And you know that it's very easy for that person to get on your nerves. And sometimes it's some of these things that, okay, when this happens, this rubs me up the wrong way. Know who and what pushes your buttons. Because when you know, now you've got a strategy to deal with that. You know very well, you know what, my buttons are bound to get pushed by a wide range of people or things. These are the things that get me worked up. These are the things that get me excited. And know both extremes so that you can manage yourself well. Some people say, you know what, for me, if I just take 2 classes, one is one too many or two is, the next thing you are on the floor, the next thing you are acting up, the next thing you can't get up. Know what triggers you so that you can manage yourself. If you know you can't handle alcohol, stay away from it. Manage yourself strategically. If you know you can't handle a certain song, don't be the first one to actually suggest that they play it. Because then you are playing into your own weakness.
So when I know my buttons, Dr. T, I get the power to manage my reactions to the triggers.
Oh, yes, because now the triggers don't come as a surprise.
Yes.
Yes, they don't come as a surprise. Now you know very well, you know what, I need to manage myself in this way, and I need to manage myself much better. See, Rams, this conversation really is a mature conversation that needs to help people to mature into their greater self-concept. A lot of us have got gifts, a lot of us have got skills, but the character betrays the skill. And the person becomes smaller than the gift that they carry. Why? Because there is not enough self-awareness so that we can manage who we are and manage what we carry. Wow. And so sometimes when you really get to know the person that carries the gift, you don't even like the person. How many people, how many movies have you liked until you actually make the actor that plays the part and realize, okay, he's not such a great person, but I used to like the movie. Or a song until you meet the person that sings it. Or a book until you meet the author. You see, so the person must know how to manage themselves so that whatever their gift or whatever their output is out there, they can handle it. That's why I'm saying this is a very mature conversation for people that want to grow their EQ and become great people.
We've spent so much time, guys, understanding other people. I think all I've heard tonight is know thyself. We gotta know ourselves, guys. And I think that's what Dr. T is saying. Know thyself. Because once you know yourself, nobody else will have power over you. We are only not even halfway through this conversation. We are 1/3 into this conversation, and we are done for tonight. So, you know what it means, folks? You back next week and the next week so that we finish this one part before we even move to other parts. I love Dr. T. He's so smart. He keeps you with me forever. Dr. Thando Sibanda, beautiful. I loved it today. I'm beginning to understand what to watch to empower myself.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. I've really enjoyed it. And I trust our people are taking notes and they are growing in this. That's lovely, Rams. Thank you so much.
If they don't grow, it's fine. I am growing, Dr. T. It's their loss. I will not waste what you're giving me tonight. Thank you so much and have a great evening further, Dr. T.
Thank you. Same to you, my brother.
And for me, Rams Mabote, good night and God bless.